Howdy folks, welcome to another session of painting miniatures. I'm Dan. Currently with me in the faster chat room, this is Maddie, otherwise known as Radio Free Earth Dawn.
Hello.
We're going to do something a little bit different this morning. I've got a couple of, I've got a squad of 1879 British soldiers on the table, so we'll get on to those. That's these guys. They're already well and truly on the way. Basic block colours in, and we'll do a little bit of basing on these guys. And they're just, don't even know what they're called.
They're
Dragon's Teeth.
Yeah.
Not the concrete version from World War II, the stick version from Demon World. So, yeah, stacks to do. And what we've got here is some slightly reworked fighter designs for Etherstream. So, a little bit more, a little bit more detail and a quick paint job. So, there's work still going on for Interceptor. No announcements to be made just yet, but it is continuing despite the lack of success in the Kickstarter. As ever, if you want to join in the conversation, come to the general voice channel of the FASA official Discord server. And yeah, get into it. So the first thing I was going to do was the masks. It's one thing you guys haven't touched on in your role-playing yet, was the smell. Is that only from the dead things?
I guess. Or biological weapons employed by the Samsut. Or by the British.
No, well, it's the British wearing the masks, so obviously.
I seem to recall reading a bit of fluff in one of the role-playing source books that British are thinking about using mustard gas.
Right.
So, yeah. Not something you normally associate with the British in the Victorian era.
Well, no, I guess not. So
maybe when we get to the front lines.
Ooh, when? Spoilers. People, spoilers.
Maybe when.
Maybe when. Nicely recovered.
I'm sorry, Dan, you were going to say something much more interesting.
No. I think what I'm going to have to do for these guys is I'm going to have to give them... You can't... I don't know if you can see that at all. Let's see if the camera's going to focus. See, his face disappears now because of the grey. So I'm going to have to give him silver lenses or something like that to make his eyes stand out.
Might I suggest like a goldy color?
Well,
because it's supposed to be super harsh and white light, bright sunlight out there, and
oh, okay,
yeah,
sure. This detail up here on the hat, that badging, that all needs to be gold, and there's a gold band goes around it. So I just wonder whether or not gold,
might be a bit too much.
Gold
yeah,
eyes
okay.
might be a bit too much. I don't know. I might play with that a little bit and start with silver, and if that doesn't work, I might go for a colour. So a green or a blue just to pick the lens out so that.
Yeah, okay. I just mention it because it's one of those really hidden details. It's supposedly the star for the Grosvenor world is a white star, not a yellow one like we have here in the real world.
So does that mean a higher temperature? I think it does, doesn't it? More towards the blue.
I think so.
Blue end, yeah.
And it's, astronauts use the gold for their brightness dimming thing. I word good today.
Radiation protection.
That.
Gold is a very good insulator, apparently, as well as a good conductor. I only say this because I know that McLaren were lining the engine bays of their cars with gold to stop heat soak. I think I got that right.
It sounds like a legitimate practice.
If you've got enough money to line an engine bay of a car in gold.
Billion-dollar race teams? Yeah.
Yeah. It's because it's entertaining. People like it. Same with tennis and whatever. It's a popular sport. There's money in it. It's not a popular sport. There's no money in it. Like, can't imagine billion-dollar miniature painting competitions, can you?
What would be the point of having gold miniatures if you're just going to paint them?
Well, this is true. Begs the question as to what kind of an appropriate trophy that you could use. Don't suppose anybody paints their golden demons. They just put them on a shelf.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably the case.
Don't know. Never won one. Never likely to. I mean, for a start, you kind of have to enter the competition to win it, and I've never entered and never will. So...
Well, you're closer than I am.
It's only a fraction of a degree. My partner walked past me painting these last night. She looked down and she went, "No, they're ugly," shrugged and walked away.
No accounting for taste.
No, none. She does like all the Demon World figures though. She made me purchase more of the Dragonfly Riders so that I can paint more Dragonflies. When I say
that's pretty fair.
Made me purchase, there wasn't an awful lot of arm twisting going on, let's face it. Doesn't take an awful lot to get me to spend money on miniatures. Like, needs to be a day ending in Y.
Like that.
Yes. Spent an incredible amount of money in the last week.
Lockdown fever, huh?
Yeah. Comes with ending a car lease. I paid the balloon out on the car.
Oh, that too. Yeah. All of a sudden there's a lot more free income about.
Hopefully.
Until you spend it.
Until I spend it. Obviously, some of that has to go towards insurance, some of it has to go towards maintenance, some of it has to go towards fuel, so it isn't a...
But you're paying all that anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
So
you,
it's
you,
virtually free money in a new car.
you say that, but it's a 5-year-old car.
Newer than any car I've ever owned.
Yeah, well, it was brand new once, although it was an ex-demonstrator, so it was never 100% new, if you take my meaning. I think it had 300 kilometres on it when I bought it.
That's pretty reasonable, really. I wouldn't mind that.
Well, when you consider that it was $13,000 off its list price for 300 kilometres.
Hell yeah.
It was a bargain.
That's a crazy good bargain.
It was a bargain. They just wanted to get rid of it. They wanted to turn it over. They'd been sitting on their showroom floor for ages, and I think I was the first person to come in and show interest in it in weeks. So they went, here's a guy that's interested, let's sell it to him. So yeah. I didn't want a blue car. I ended up with a blue car. But as it turns out, I grew to love the blue car. As in the colour blue. Like, I always loved the car, but I was always a bit sort of dubious about the colour, but it certainly grew on me. What am I doing? I'm doing rifles.
That was quick that you've zapped all those gas masks.
Yes, contrast paints for the win. Contrast paints in 15mm image, particularly these ones, they work so well. I don't know whether you can actually see it's probably really badly washed out. But you may be able to see the difference now between the black of the helmet and the grey of the mask. Maybe.
Yeah, it's not a great visual because of the light, but yeah, there is something to that.
Yeah. Definitely have to pick their eyes out. I reckon I like the idea of your gold. We'll start with silver. Let's see where we go. Rifles. Rifles. These are an interesting construct because they're a magazine-fed bolt action with a scope.
Oh dear.
And I'm glad that you made Angus McRae take his gun to a gunsmith, because I'm like, discharge out a battery? That's not going to go well.
I think he's lucky I didn't make him lose a hand.
I'm still trying to figure out, is it an elephant rifle? Is it a...
I'm not actually that much of a gunhead, particularly with old style weapons. It's a bolt action sniper rifle.
Right.
Which is one of these, I guess, same as these things. It's got a scope, it's got a 5-shot magazine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a bayonet.
Oh, there's a mistake. If you're going to go shooting dinosaurs, you'll need a bayonet.
I think the idea is to shoot them before they close.
Well, that's the idea. But this was the whole idea of the really big round, was that you drop the animal in one go, because if you didn't, it was coming after you.
Well, spoilers.
So you know how the nomenclature works with the caliber size, yes? You understand?
Vaguely, yeah.
You understand what a 50 caliber is and what a
Yeah.
a .22 is and all that kind of stuff. So from memory, and I may have this wrong, the so-called elephant guns were a 6.67 Now, when you consider that a World War II Boys anti-tank rifle was just slightly over 50 caliber, I think they were a .52 or something along those lines, right? A 6.67 is a heck of a round to be firing from a handgun or rifle.
Well, he doesn't have one, fortunately, I think.
Yeah.
I've got my firearms chart here. Somewhere.
I assume there's one in the rules.
There is, but I printed one out too.
Alright.
There is no elephant gun, fortunately.
Not sure how you're going to take the Triceratopses on then.
Throw jars of acid at them.
Oh, that was hilarious.
I let them get away with too much.
That was hilarious. It was too easy, but it was hilarious.
This is a me thing, but once upon a time I came close to killing off the entire party in a very early adventure.
Right.
And since then, I realized that if I don't have player characters, then I can't use the art that I commissioned for them.
Right. Yeah, that would
And
be
so
bad.
I've been a little gun shy.
It's like, put them in danger, make them sweat, but there is a little bit of plot armor there.
Yes, there is a little bit of plot armor. Not that I tell them that.
Well, no. I can't imagine they're watching this, so...
As I understand it, one of the players is interested in minis painting.
Oh, there you go. Spoilers. Goodness me. I've got a cold chisel stuck in my head.
Well, don't start singing.
No. There are some crimes that just should not be committed.
Oh, I meant more like you'll get a 10-minute auto mute from Twitch.
Their algorithms are so unlikely to match what I would be singing to what I was attempting to reproduce that I can't imagine they would pick any kind of copyright out of it at all. I can't sing, so I'm not going to.
I've seen them do auto muting on crazy things.
Yeah.
And call it something that it's completely not. Like, it's literally the wrong thing that they have struck copyright for.
So, I am a software engineer, right? We know this. I work every day with very clever algorithms that do very clever things for a very clever result. I am in biomedical, cancer detection actually, and the algorithms are only as good as the programmers. So it is of no wonder to me that when they attempt to do things like that auto muting and things like that, that it all goes quite wrong from time to time.
Good to know.
This is why I'm not that keen on self-driving cars yet.
Don't blame you. Oh dear, every story that they come up in is a cracker.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. Okay, so to a degree, when there is a human in charge of the vehicle, there is a degree of self-preservation involved. As in, the person operating the vehicle has, usually, survival in mind, shall we say. And it's a fairly deep imperative in the natural world. Not so much in the world of an artificially programmed vehicle. So yeah. Not that keen on self-driving cars yet. Not that keen on sharing the road with them yet. Didn't realise this was going to be quite so fiddly. The stocks are actually really quite small. There's an awful lot of gun barrel versus stock.
Hmm.
I do like these paints.
Yeah, which paints are you using today?
So this is a sort of leather colour from the Rolpatha paints. It's got a really nice grind, really nice texture, really fine consistency. Comes out of the brush nicely. If I wasn't shaking like heck. I blame the song that's stuck in my head, because it can.
No, you may as well tell us which one it is now.
Oh, K-San.
Of course.
Of course.
Is there any particular reason for that? Were you playing a Vietnam era war game?
No, I spent some time, probably 12 months ago, learning the lyrics, because you know what a mondegreen is.
I've heard the term.
Yeah, right. So there's quite a number associated with that song, because it's not an easy song to listen to from the perspective of the lyrics are quite complicated and detailed. I remember a story of the day Don Walker came in and introduced the song to the band, because the song itself, musically, it's actually relatively simple, but lyrically it's actually really difficult. And Jimmy Barnes said, "Oh, it was like learning a novel." Because Don wanted to perform it that night at their next gig. Jimmy's looking at the lyrics going, are you serious? Yeah, so there's a bunch of lyrics in the middle that actually aren't all that easy to pick out, so I spent some time learning it, and now from time to time I'll just wake up with the damn thing stuck in my head.
Fair enough.
I did, at the time, we watched a video telemovie thing. I can't remember what service it was on either, but it was about Long Tan, an Australian brigade that got ambushed at Long Tan. Which was very, very interesting.
Has there been Vietnam era war games?
Oh yeah, plenty. Stacks.
Okay, it's just not something I've ever seen before.
It's kind of like, it's a little bit like World War One in that it tends not to get mainstream focus. I think, by and large, people are still fairly uncomfortable with the Vietnam War.
Well, that's certainly true.
And that's a shame, because the guys that were there deserve recognition. You know, they weren't there necessarily by choice. They were there doing what they were told to do. They were doing it the best that they possibly could, and they were human beings. Plenty of them made mistakes, plenty of them didn't, plenty of them paid the ultimate price are very close to, so I think they should be recognised up there with every other veteran of every other war. The problem is that the politics around the Vietnam War are dirty, and that taints it, which is very unfortunate for the serving soldier.
Amen.
As he said, there were no V-Day heroes in 1973. Whereas the World War II is a very comfortable war for a lot of people, because there's a air quotes, good side, air quotes, bad side. I have significant issues with that, but other people find it a lot more comfortable. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's acceptable as a war game setting, I guess.
Deep and heady stuff on Painting with Dan today.
That's right. Shy away from the politics, but yeah, I really feel for the Vietnam vets. I really feel for the raw deal they got by society in general. Oh, I just painted the trigger guard. Bugger.
So I suppose that's a question for me to ask.
Mm.
Now that you've brought it up, there's no easy way to get paint off once it's on the Mini, is there?
Without destroying the paint job?
Yeah.
No.
That's implied.
Because there's plenty of easy ways of getting paint off metal miniatures. It's just... you're talking it's an all or nothing proposition.
My solution thus far has been to glob more paint on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm glad to know that's my best option.
Well, it's the best option I've found so far. If the paint is still wet, so if you've just made the mistake, then I'll go and grab a wet brush. Not too wet, mind you, but just a brush that's damp with clean water in it. And I'll go and try and lift the wet paint. So
just by like wicking it away.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I'll attempt to demonstrate. Right. So on the back of the bayonet, see, blob of brown paint. I really don't know if you can see that.
Just barely.
Just barely. So if I grab that, I've just dropped some water into it. Quite got it all. Oop, just scrub the primer off it. So great example that you can get the paint off, but you can do more damage while you do it. And so it's what works for you.
Righto. Good tip. Good to know.
But yeah, often if I'm like the belts, when I was painting the belts, sometimes I slipped off to the side, and I'd just go and get that brush and with a little bit of water and just paint the water on the bit of the paint that I didn't want on the model, and it'll wick into the bristles of the brush. But you have to do it while it's wet. It's an immediate thing. If you let it dry, forget it. Once it's dry, it's done. One more thing to note about these is that I've actually done them backwards, because most of the time when I'm painting miniatures like this, I start with the faces and the hands. But I haven't done them yet. Well, I've done the faces obviously because I've done the mask, but I haven't done the hands.
The hands would be the only exposed skin on those ones, wouldn't it?
Yep. That's it.
Not like my poor Highlanders.
No, that'd be very exposed.
Fortunately, they have very big socks.
Yeah. Well, they've got a large job to perform. Probably should have straightened all of those before I started painting, but
Couldn't wait to get stuck in.
couldn't wait to get stuck in. I'm like, these are going to be really cool. Slap some paint on. Oh, bit of flashing there. Whoops. Bent rifle there. Whoops.
It really is amazing just how much even a couple of coats of primer will do to pick up flashing that you didn't realize was there.
Oh, yeah. And you know what's even better? Is the brown wash, which is about the second last stage. Put a brown wash on and you go, oh, I missed that mould line, that mould line, that mould line, that mould line. Bugger. Like there's a mould line here on the side of this rifle that is going to stick out like nobody's business when the wash goes on it. But the point is that I'm going to be looking at them from 2 feet away. And at that point, that detail disappears. That's stuff you don't get away with Golden Demon.
Well, that's true.
I reckon mould line would be instant disqualification. Brown gives them starting to give them a little bit of colour. They are fairly monochromatic.
What's black and white and red all over?
Oh, there are so many answers to that particular joke.
Victorian era British Army.
Yeah.
That's about as witty as I feel this morning.
That was the safe. He took the safe option. The safe option's good. I went through the dozen different unsafe options and went, no, not saying any of those. Have you got yourself a decent light to work under?
Not really. There are a couple of spare lamps sitting around that I have yet to plug in and try because I find it's a difficult space to run an extension cord to.
Oh, okay.
I'm basically painting on a table in the garage.
Oh, okay.
And there's very little space between my chair and the main access between the garage door and the rest of the garage.
Right.
And so running an extension cable there would be a big trip hazard.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't come up with a satisfactory solution.
Throw a doormat over it.
Yeah, but then I'd have to find a PowerPoint. And a very, very big doormat.
Yeah. 6 metre long doormat. I think we'll do the barrels. Cover that up and put it away. These paint pots. I hate them. You open them like that, the paint goes down the back of the little lip and it drops down onto the outside of it and then runs down into the hinges and you end up
with an intentional design choice.
Yeah, you end up with the paint jammed in here and so the lid doesn't go on properly and then it doesn't seal properly and paint goes off and then you have to throw it away and buy new. You can see in here, you actually see the paint jammed in the back there.
Yeah. I think that's an intentional design choice by our good friends at
Citadel.
those who I wasn't going to name. Good way to sell more paint, really.
Yeah, you would think so. They get a fair bit of backlash over it.
What, against anti-consumer practices that they have no intention of changing?
Oh, just I don't know. People, in my experience, people, there's a gamer life cycle, if you like. They get brought into the hobby by Citadel Games Workshop, and they remain fanboys for a period of time, and then they wake up and realise some of the practices that are going on, and then they get personally aggrieved by that, and they reject everything that's Workshop and Citadel, and they go and they explore other eras and other games and other companies and all that kind of stuff, and then over time they come to realise that the world is the world, and that Citadel really does produce some of the best plastic miniatures in the world, and that they are, if not a necessary evil, then a fundamental part of the hobby. And then they come back again and spend more money, with their eyes open this time, knowing fully that they're being taken advantage of. But I'm not just describing myself. I know a number of people that have done that.
Fortunately, I am not yet on that return phase.
No. It's a very expensive return phase.
I think I might just give it a miss.
Good plan. But they really do stunning miniatures. They really do. The current round of stuff that they're producing for Age of Sigmar is gobsmacking.
Yeah, I never really looked at those. The last time I looked at any of their fantasy stuff really would have been 20 years ago, when I thought the Breton army was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, the Bretonnians still are cool, except they killed them off. I suppose.
Well, there we go. That's the end of my Games Workshop life.
That's probably why they're still cool. Go and do a quick search for Alariel the Everqueen. Go and look at that model. Her standing on her stag beetle.
What did you say it was called?
Alariel the Everqueen. Actually, you probably just the Everqueen model will probably get you the results.
Oh, yeah.
I happen to have that model. I haven't touched it because it is intimidating with a capital Tim.
19,900 yen. So about $200.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to take on a project like that. If I'm going to spend $200, I'd rather spend it on a lot of little ones.
Yep. I've done both. do the Trigger Gardner magazine on that one. I did. So yeah, if you look at that miniature, that's a relatively old one now. You go and have a look at the Mortise Engine. It's similar sorts of detail. They're mind-blowingly good. You just have to give them that. The miniatures are, they're setting the standard, the bar for plastic miniatures at, you know, heroic 28. Do we even call it 28mm anymore? I mean, it's 32 and above, really.
Kind of like the creep from 15 to 18.
Yeah, exactly right. Do you measure the 15mm figure to the top of its head or to its eyes? And what does 1 to 100 really mean?
Let's not even get onto the discussion of the variation in scales between HO and HO and HO, where they're all different. And then there's N.
Yeah, well,
and Japan N, and everyone else N.
Yeah, well, it's American N versus UK N, which is the big one. And that's the reason why HO is different from 00.
Because if everything was the same and worked together, it would be boring.
Well, I mean, there is actually a reason for it in model trains. And that's because the UK loading gauges look quite a bit smaller than that in the US. Which means for the same track gauge, which is it 13.5mm, I think, for HO? I think that's right.
I've never actually gotten to that level. It sounds right.
But it means then the UK prototype on that width track they can be physically bigger because the actual loading gauge in the UK is smaller, so the width of the train is closer to the width of the track. And that's a tunnel thing.
Yeah. Trains don't like to run when they're wider than their tunnels.
That's right. They go splat. There's a funny story about that, actually. So the main sort of gauge in use across the world, standard gauge, is 4 foot 8.5, right? It was chosen because it happened to be notionally how far apart a standard cartwheel was. Wheel on a cart, I mean, not a sort of gymnastic cartwheel. Anyhow, well, how far apart the cartwheels were determined more or less by how wide a horse is. At the back end, because the cart was built to the size of the horse. So the tunnel size was sized to the vehicles that were built to the size of the rail gauge, which was roughly selected by the width of a horse's arse. And the booster rockets on the shuttle had to be shifted by train, and therefore they had to conform to the tunnel size. So you actually had parts of the space shuttle whose size was ultimately determined by the width of a horse's ass.
I did not know that. Now I do.
It's just trivial crap.
I love trivia. Of course, up here in Queensland, we're all narrow gauge, so quite a bit smaller than the horse's ass.
Well, you say that, but it isn't actually true. Queensland does have standard gauge. Got loading ports so they load stuff that comes all the way down to Victoria now. And Victoria's got a significant amount of standard gauge. And this state was broad gauge for a long time. National Rail stuff can come right down the east coast now on standard gauge. Yeah, a lot of the cane stuff's all on real narrow 2'6" or 3 foot or something like that.
2 foot?
Yeah, 2 foot. Good fun stuff. Looking forward to my workshop going in so I can start building my train set. In my spare time. Cough.
The danger of too many hobbies.
A bunch of things I have to set back up. Get the 3D printer set up properly, get the laser cutter set up properly, the lathe and the mill set up properly.
Just how big is this workshop of yours?
That's only 4x7.
Wow.
There's small lathes and small mills, trust me. Hobby stuff. My dad had full-size equipment, garage equipment, shed equipment, lathes and stuff like that. He had a very, very big shed though. Trying to think how big that shed was. I think it was 9x18 or something like that.
Pretty respectable size.
It's bigger than the house.
Yep.
Well, sadly, all that equipment went when he passed, so there's nothing I could do with it. Mum said, you should take it. I went, I have nowhere to put it. You should sell it. So we did. I think I got away with it.
We out here in TV land didn't notice anything.
Right. We'll just cover it up and move along. Gonna have to wash this brush out shortly. Hopefully you can't see my hands shaking either because it's diabolical this morning.
Now that you've called attention to it. If it were me, I would have said that it was just because I was gripping that handle real tight.
No, this is my lifelong companion. I have a couple of them now. It's getting old thing. It's not good.
You always used to joke that I'd never make it past 29 because I'd do something about it.
Right. But you
Here
didn't.
I am, well past 29.
But you didn't.
No.
Well, that's a good thing.
It was a pretty good year. I decided against it.
Yeah.
Been kind of crap since then, though, so, you know.
All bets are off. I struggled to figure out a few years ago why going forward was better than not. Made it through that phase. I've got plenty to look forward to at the moment, so it's all good. I've certainly got plenty to do. I told you I ordered some battle mechs.
A small handful, yeah.
A small handful, yes. Did I actually tell you what I ordered?
Not in precise detail.
Okay, so you know the 3058 tech readout?
Yep.
You're aware of it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, I ordered every mech out of that. Bar one, because they don't have it.
Okay. That's only a small handful.
It's about 50, I think.
Yeah.
Plus every book that they've got that I don't. So I think there was 13 books. So it's just like, you know how I sort of spend a ridiculous amount of money this week? I spent a ridiculous amount of money this week.
Yes. Yes, you could say that quite safely.
Yeah, there's no point taking it with me. I will actually have to start painting those at some point, because I think I've probably already got 100 or so that are just in undercoat or are assembled but not even primed. I should set myself a goal of, like, you know, painting one a week or something like that, so at least I start reducing that backlog. But there are just so many other things to do. Spent all week working on software to be able to do unit definitions for Demon World.
What do you mean by unit definitions?
So when you open the army books, there'll be a unit described in there. So, I mean, take these guys for example. All right, so you've got line troopers with rifle and toxic mask. So they have in-game stats. So, you know, they walk a certain distance, they have a certain ranged attack. They've got bayonets on the end of their rifles, so they have a certain melee attack.
Righto.
So all of
So,
the
like
statistics.
stat blocks, basically.
Yeah, basically. Well, that's what a unit definition is. It's
Okay, I'd just not heard that specific term before because of my lack of wargaming background.
right. So that's it, and there are 600 something, I think, in Demon World.
Oh, just a small number then.
Just a small number, yeah. Well, I've created a lot of factions for the next edition because I'm looking for a nuanced world. A little bit less cardboard cutout than the previous one. And so I've got a lot of names to come up with and a lot of unit definitions to put together and a lot of play testing to do. But there are certain things that the unit definitions are all grounded upon, like certain creatures move a certain distance. It's built into the creature. Like a human's base movement is 9 inches, for example. And then when you add armor to them, they start out with a certain protection level. When you add armor to them, that protection level goes up, but their movement rate goes down.
Right.
But that needs to be universally applied. So that, you know, if I have one faction with a block of pikemen who are armed and armored similarly to a different faction with a group of pikemen, those two statistics for movement and protection should be consistent.
Makes sense to me.
What happened is with the previous stat blocks, there were inconsistencies across the unit definition base for units that were similar. So I'm attempting to eliminate all of those inconsistencies, because that'll make playtesting significantly easier. And being a software engineer, I have a few of those skills, so
sounds like a worthy goal for a new edition.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's going to be a pretty big change. We've retired the background of 2nd and 3rd edition. So all the writing and all the characters and all that kind of stuff has been retired. We'll be bringing some of the names forward, so that some of the names will be familiar, and they may or may not have similar sorts of roles in the new background, but I wanted something a little bit more nuanced, you know. In 3rd edition, when you read the 3rd edition fluff, there's one bad guy. Literally one bad guy. Everything bad that's ever happened in the world has happened because this guy's a bad guy. And I don't know, I found that just a little bit less than compelling, convincing, engaging.
Less believable.
Yeah. I have to be very careful when I say realistic, because it's a fantasy world, but you know what I mean. It's that suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But yeah, it wasn't easy to have the conversation with the previous line developer about the fact that she put 7 years worth of part-time effort into something, and I was just going to come along and within the first 3 months of looking after it, just completely change it radically. That wasn't easy for her to deal with. And
No, I imagine not.
I appreciate the fact that she's actually still talking to me. Says good things about her.
Quite so.
But yeah, I came up with a creation myth. It's not something you get to do every day. It's not a very good one, let's face it, but it's a start. And somebody with more imagination than me can come along and they can revise it and make it better, and hopefully over time I get a bunch of people interested and involved and engaged, and it ends up, they have to be rich, nuanced, engaging, playable. Successful product. I guess that last bit being the most important bit. Because we want to sell a lot of those miniatures, because they are gorgeous miniatures. They deserve to be in everybody's collection.
I'll have to take another closer look at them.
Considering that they were sculpted in the mid-late 90s, they are jaw-droppingly good. We just have to get people past the fact that they're 15mm. Because the world is in love with 28, cough, 32, cough, 35.
Coming soon, 50.
Coming soon, 50. Yeah. You noticed how everything takes longer than you wanted to?
Yes. What brings on that particular observation this morning?
That it's 10 past 9 and I haven't got the rifle barrels done yet. So the zappy noises that Sam makes, do you add those effects?
They are a post-production effect.
Right. Same with the gunshots and...
Correct.
You must spend a bit of time in post then.
I do, actually. Probably as much time as I do editing our nonsense into coherentness.
Right.
But a bit less than what I spend on background tracks.
Right.
Because I decide my background tracks as I go.
Okay. So the music behind it is a deliberate choice.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a good choice. I haven't had any negative feedback about the suitability of it, but I'm also not great at selecting music.
I did have a wry chuckle because it was part of one of the episodes. I can't remember which one it was. The last one and the one prior to that, where there was something going on. I think one of the characters was actually in a fair bit of trouble, and all of a sudden a jaunty tune starts playing, and I'm like, this is hilarious. This is the game master going, haha, I'm enjoying myself.
Oh, the Maggie May theme song, yeah.
That was good fun. Actually, the whole thing is good fun.
Well, thank you for saying so.
It certainly puts a smile on my face. I have to make sure that I don't get interrupted. Like, my partner's babysitting for her daughter at the moment because she's expecting at any stage, and she wants someone looking after the two that she's already got in a safe, comfortable environment, so that the kids aren't stressed any more than they would normally be, because mum needs to disappear into hospital for a few days, and given COVID times, the kids aren't probably allowed to visit and all that kind of stuff, so they're working on this 2 days a week type thing. Obviously lockdown has affected that, but so she was there Thursday night, so she went straight from work Thursday night and didn't get home till 9:30. So after I finished work, I had a block of time where I could sit down and I could listen to that episode uninterrupted. It's just what I was looking for. Whereas if I attempted to listen to it as soon as you post it on a Sunday afternoon, it wouldn't work. I'd get interrupted.
That's fair. I find my attention slipping more as I try to multitask more things with my podcast listening.
Yeah. And this is the other reason why I wouldn't listen to it doing anything other than painting. Like if I was writing code or something like that, my mind would be on the writing code and the text. The content wouldn't go in.
And then all of a sudden, how did we get here?
Yeah, it's like, what happened? I have to go back and listen to it again.
You know, there is one in particular that I have on my regular listening list that I just completely lose track of where they're at.
Right.
Partly because of the style of the game and the game mastering, and partly because of the players, but also partly because I'm often listening, trying to read something or trying to work on something else while I'm listening, and
Yeah.
I have lost the thread of that game so many times, it's not funny.
Did you ever watch any of the Critical Role stuff?
I have never watched or listened to Critical Role.
Okay.
And in the RPG games that I have that have Critical Role voice packs, I do not use them.
Yeah. Well, it's reasonable. It's a choice.
It's big, so it sucks. No, that's not true. I'm sure they're very good at what they do. It's just not what I'm interested in.
No, and that's fair. These are choices. I did watch some of them, but I can't say that it grabbed me and compelled me to stay watching and watch it all. We got to a certain point and went, yep, okay. Know what they're doing, know how they're doing it. Got other things to watch and listen to.
I just don't watch games or shows like that on YouTube. I don't have the patience for it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of it. A lot.
Yeah, I'm also one of those people that likes their stories to start at the beginning.
Yeah. And not have 450 hours to catch up to start from the beginning.
That too.
But
That's why when I fell off Game of Thrones in Season 3, I never went back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never saw beyond Season 3.
I'd read all the books, so...
I've never bought any of those novels, and yet somehow I found in various moving boxes a couple of them. I'm like, how did these get here?
Interesting.
Someone else has been using my moving boxes.
It's like when you get a rubbish skip out on their nature strip and you come out one morning and find that the damn things are full.
That's doing the community a service.
apparently. Unwittingly. Oh, I like Game of Thrones, but I like the novels far more than the TV show. But you have to recognise that the TV show is pretty epic, but the novels are a lot better.
Yeah, I mostly lost interest in the show after they killed off Jason Momoa.
Yeah, right.
I'd watch that guy in anything.
Yeah.
And if I was orientated that way, that would probably be my type, but I'm not. But I have watched far worse crap than Game of Thrones just for Jason Momoa.
I
Baywatch Hawaii.
like.
I even liked his Conan movie.
Did you? I haven't seen
It is not as good as the Yarny one.
it. Wow, that's saying something.
That's a great movie.
Is it? It's good entertainment, but isn't a great movie.
I think it holds up. I also have notoriously low standards.
I don't know. I keep waiting for him to bust out "Come with me if you want to live."
Did Conan predate Terminator?
Oh yeah.
Certainly it predated Terminator 2.
Yeah, no, it did.
Although it would be a perfectly valid line in Conan.
It would be. Did you watch Red Sonja?
Don't think so.
Hmm. I really do hope.
Now I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, right.
And find a copy.
It's probably on YouTube.
Oh, I'm sure it's out there.
Hands are going a bit faster than the barrels did.
A little less surface area to cover.
Yeah. Quite so fiddly.
I suppose so. How fortunate for me that all of my new paints are in eyedroppers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I will admit I haven't had a lot of success with the wet palette that I threw together.
Oh, really? What's happening?
It's either it's drying out too quickly as I'm using it, which probably means I'm painting too slow. The other problem is that I keep, particularly when I'm mixing different colors together, I keep tearing the parchment paper, the baking paper, and it's seeping through to the paper towels underneath. And I was like, hang on a second, where the hell's all my paint gone? The color's still there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's seeped all the way through.
Yep.
And I guess that's a problem of me mixing.
Yeah, sounds like it. What are you mixing with?
A long time ago, I picked up some very tiny metal spoons.
Oh, right.
I suppose I could use a brush.
Yep.
It would be a little more gentle.
Yep. Stomach is protesting that it's breakfast time.
I suppose it is. Never been a big one for breakfast.
Me neither. I really have to force myself.
Most of the time, anytime I have breakfast, I'm really just eating lunch early. I could go some baked beans on toast, though.
Wow. I haven't had those for years.
Oh, it's lovely with a bit of grated cheese and some fried salami.
Yeah.
Some chili.
That sounds like a damn fine meal.
Unfortunately, I have precisely none of those things.
In the house.
Yeah. I don't even have bread. It's been a week since I've last gone grocery shopping, so, you know, these things happen.
That's right. This is where I like the division of labour. Because I'm not a very good cook, so... And she is, so...
Fair enough.
I do the mechanical and the manual labour. She does the sustenance provenance. Teamwork.
Well, I'm just an I in my team, so...
Mm-hmm.
Which works out well for me. But that is a long, complicated series of thoughts to get into, and not really that appropriate for this stream.
You are who you are.
Exactly so.
No activity at all in the chat today.
Unfortunately not.
That's alright. This would be like the odd-numbered Star Trek movies. There'll be every second one of these will have no interest in it whatsoever. Right, well, that's the skin time done, so that can go away. I'll do bayonets. So that'll probably be it, I reckon. Different brush. These are taking quite a bit longer than I thought they would. I thought I'd actually be done with the details.
They do appear to be immensely detailed figures.
Yeah, they're really lovely. And someone had said to me, I can't remember what it was, someone had said to me that they're less detailed than Demon World stuff, and I guess that's true, but there's still a lot on them. They're still very good. I mean, come by the time the wash goes over them, I've picked out all the details and all that kind of stuff. I reckon they'll look really, really good. So let's get some paint on these bayonets.
That's not the same metallic one that you used for the rifle barrels, was it?
No. So you should actually be able to see the contrast between the two. So the rifle barrels are gunmetal, and this is a bright shining silver.
Yeah,
So,
that is quite different.
yeah. Because one is quite literally a gunmetal, and the other one is bright steel. So. And I did look up a colour guide for British uniforms of the era, but I think I'm going to deviate from it slightly because all of their equipment hanging off the webbing was all white. They must have pipe clayed the whole lot. But I think I'm going to go for a khaki water bottle. Not that the water bottle is khaki, is that the cloth sack that the water bottle is in is a khaki. Just to add a little bit of additional sort of interest to the back. Because again, they're incredibly monochromatic.
And here I was about to do all mine in leather brown.
What? Water skins or figures?
Belt pouches, water skins, that sort of detail. I didn't realise that they were white because they don't show up in any of the pictures that I've been using for references.
The water bottles?
Well, water bottles and belt pouches,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Right. I did a Google image search for British Army 1890.
Fair enough.
3 or 4 images.
I went a little more specific in my searching.
Oh, okay.
I'm painting my Highlanders as though they were 93rd Regiment of Foot.
Right.
Which was the thin red line at Balaclava of fame and song and story.
Yeah.
The guys that took the Russian charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not many belt pouches to be seen in paintings from that.
No.
And the one photo of an actual uniform I have was Major General, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that doesn't help you.
No.
There wasn't more than about one of him. What I need to be doing, and what the unit is probably for next week's live stream, is I've got to put together some command for the orcs. We did a play test last weekend and we had to use command units from the ISTAC that I'd painted because I don't have any command ready for the orcs. So I need to remedy that. Because the photos are good, but it's all just a bit weird. Orcs being ordered around by scantily clad female women. Female women, idiot. Female commanders.
Well, female. Yeah. Gotcha.
Well, it's just, totally different themes of miniatures. It's just a bit jarring.
It's a good thing you went quite light on your orc skin. If you went quite dark, it might have been an awful Mandingo thing.
Yeah. Unintentional faux pas.
I have that novel sitting on my shelf.
Have you?
Yeah. I picked it up to read it once and never really got past the front cover.
Right. I used to think I was
I've
very
never
well
seen the
read.
movie.
No. I used to think I was well read, but I'm not.
Read a lot, but not well or broadly.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Thank you for introducing me to yet another source of literature.
Oh boy, that is not highbrow.
Well, when you asked last, said I'd gotten to chapter 6,
Yeah.
and I was complaining that there was nothing going on.
Hmm.
Well, chapter 7 and chapter 8 remedied that real fast.
Yep. It's not highbrow, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be.
Nope.
I love the setting. The setting's great.
I wonder where they got their dinosaurs from. At least
Jurassic Park.
in 1879, the dinosaurs are confined to a different planet,
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for them just to all of a sudden pop up in London 1875.
It does if you buy into the whole mad scientist experiment with bringing dinosaurs back and a successful thing. Just hand wave away that dinosaurs can't exist in the current climate, but you know, that's a hand wave.
I do like hand waves.
They are necessary for the kind of hobby that you are involved in, and I am.
This is very true.
You wouldn't believe the degree of it that goes on in my professional life. It's very disturbing. Right, water bottles. What colour are the kilts on your Highlanders?
There's a reason why I picked the 93rd, not just their thin red line. Their kilts are also a very, very, very dark green blue.
Right.
And there's virtually no light points in it.
Right.
So it's very easy to go on, and yeah.
So it's not a tartan.
Well, it's tartan.
Right.
It's just super, super dark. There's no light colours in it at all, so it's just easy to paint.
Yeah, okay. So you get away with the block colour.
I'm hand waving it.
Good. Because painting tartan accurately in 15mm is just a road to insanity, I think.
Yeah, I figured that out. I'm going to have to hand wave the socks as well, I think, because they're red and white striped.
Yep. Make them all red or all white and just go, yeah, close enough.
White with red garters, I think.
Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of stuff you can't get away with at 28.
Yeah, true.
And I have a bunch of 28 Napoleonics around here somewhere that I haven't started. It's a lot easier to buy miniatures than it is to paint them.
I'm just learning that myself.
First job after I've done this and had breakfast is to pull my FDM printer out and replace the print bed and replace a fan in the control unit.
You did a bit of damage, did you?
Well, the print bed's a consumable. It's got a PEI sheet on top of the glass, and after you've done a couple of hundred prints, it starts getting air bubbles under it because of the heat cool cycle. And once you can't get the bubbles out from under it anymore, you start warping prints and failing prints and stuff. So it's just a fact of life. I've got 2 glass beds with sheets on them, so a spare one, so I'll just swap the spare one in and then drop the other one in the freezer. Tomorrow I'll pull the PEI sheet off it and clean it up and put the new PEI sheet on it. But the fan that, like, I'm using a Raspberry Pi as the control unit, and it's in a 3D printed housing that has a 7-inch touchscreen stuck to the back of it and everything, so it's effectively a computer bolted to the side of the 3D printer. And I put a cooling fan in that 3D printed housing, and being a 30mm cheap brushless fan, eventually the spindles wear and it starts to moan and vibrate and carry on, and as it does that it starts to consume more power, and now we're at the point where I'm getting low power warnings on the Raspberry Pi. So replace the fan and the low power warnings should hopefully go away.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. That printer has done an unbelievably large amount of work. Like those bases I sent you, they all came off that. So it's printed literally thousands of bases. It's printed buildings, it's printed tanks, it's printed parts for motorcycles. I even fixed a dishwasher door with a part I printed on it at one point while we waited for a replacement part. All of my weather gauge instruments are mounted on parts that were 3D printed on that printer.
Fair enough.
So,
if you've already got your printer and the ability to use it, that sounds a lot cheaper than going to Jayco.
yeah, there's some things you just simply can't get, like the parts for the motorcycle. I put a fender eliminator in the back of it, and it was an aftermarket kit, and no brackets came with it. It was just a big honking piece of plastic, and so I had to make brackets effectively. Did a bunch of measuring and a bunch of printing and a bunch of experimenting, and voila. They just, I don't know, that whole additive construction process just enables you to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do, right? And printing in an ABS too, right? And ABS is actually the plastic they use for the fairings on the motorcycle. So you know it's tough enough and rugged enough to be able to stand up to the job. Yeah. It's not just about printing toys. Got some micro switches here to enable me to be able to put switches in. There's 2 rooms in the house. There's the pantry and then there's the walk-in robe in the master bedroom. Both of which we would like light switches that turn on when you open the door. We're lazy. And when you close the door again, the light goes off, which I think is more to the point, because occasionally we leave lights on in rooms that you can't see into, and so therefore don't realise the light is left on. So I've got the micro switches. All I need to do now is design and print the housings for them to go in to wire them up into the light switch. I'll get to that in the next couple of months, I guess, in my spare time.
Yep.
And then get an electrician to come in and look at what I've done.
As long as he's a friendly electrician.
He will be. Again, my partner's youngest son's a master builder, so it's the time, 9:45. Probably better wrap it up, I suppose.
For an hour-long painting stream?
Yep. So, here we are. We've got a rifle painted, hands painted, bayonet painted, and the water bottle painted. And that's all taken an inordinately long time. I don't know if you can actually see, I don't know if the contrast lets you see, but you should be maybe able to see there's a white stripe in the grey on the pants.
It does come out.
Yeah, well that needs to be red. So the reason it's white is so that the red stands out better. So in the finished model that'll be a red stripe on grey pants. Yeah. So what else have I got to do apart from that before I ink them? I don't think anything. Oh, the hat. I've got to do the gold on the hat.
The lenses.
And the lenses, yeah.
What about the cuffs?
Oh, the cuffs. Thanks for reminding me. I've got to do the cuffs. And I don't know about the collar. I don't know if I'll get in there and do the collar. I don't think that that's going to actually stand out enough to warrant that kind of risk, shall we say. Because going in there with a fine brush with black on it, you reckon that isn't going to cause problems? It's like, okay, now I have to do everything all over again. Because black is also really hard to get off if you, like even using that wet brush technique, it's really hard to get off.
Yeah, that was literally why I asked. The Highlander bonnets are black, and I got a bit of black on the flesh tone face. I was like, oh shit, how do I get this off?
Yeah, paint over it.
Yeah, I did, in the end.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for coming along. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow's episode.
I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a little more sedate than last week's.
That's okay. You want
But
to
it's a good bit of fun, I think.
tell people where to go and get it?
Oh, I'm sure if they're really interested, they could find us.
But you can plug it. Go on.
radiofreeearthdawn.libsyn.com, and I'll write it in the chat thingy here.
Brilliant. Awesome. All right, Matty. Hope the rest of your weekend's good. And yeah.
Thanks, and the same to you.
Yeah. I'll catch up with you soon.
Stay safe, don't get sick, etc., etc.
Definitely. That means stay home.
Yeah, well, that's what they want.
Right. That's what I intend to do. All right, mate. Talk to you soon.
So, yeah.
See ya.